Michael Connelly's been hailed by GQ magazine as the best mystery writer in the world, and he's won more awards than I've got fingers and toes. And he's best known for his series starring the aptly named Hieronymus Harry Bosch. He's written several other novels outside the Bosch series, including Bloodwork, which was made into a film by Clint Eastwood, and The Lincoln Lawyer, which was the first novel starring Mickey, is it a Holler or Haller?
Whatever works for you. I say holler.
Well, we'll holler back right now. Holler has returned this time in The Brass Verdict, which is published by Little Brown, and it's your 19th book. Michael, what's happened to Mickey since the end of The Lincoln Lawyer?
Well, he's been through a rough time. I hate talking about ends of other books, but suffice it to say he went through some trauma at the end of Lincoln Lawyer, both physical and mental, and he hasn't worked since. It's been about 2 years, 2+ years, and as The Brass Verdict begins, he's, as he says, getting his mojo back and getting ready to go back to work.
So he hasn't been practicing for quite some time, and he has a strange situation dropped into his lap. He's called into Judge Holder's office.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's the classic good news, bad news. The good news is another defense attorney has been murdered, and someone has to be called in to take over his cases. So that's Mickey. So the good news is you get an entire law practice of paying clients dropped into your lap. The bad news is they're all criminal defendants, and it's likely that one of those defendants is the killer. So Mickey has to take on a whole new law practice, immediately go from 0 cases to 40. And he's got to kind of be suspicious and look over his shoulders because he doesn't really know who he's dealing with and who might have had a grudge against the old attorney who might carry it forward to him.
That's knowledge that can get you killed.
Yeah.
Now, he's kept Lorna, his case manager and ex-wife, on the payroll. Why has he done that?
Well, I think he's a loyal guy, and their marriage didn't work out, and that's explained in actually The Lincoln Lawyer, the first book, and The Brass Verdict. It's touched on their marriage. And they've been able to remain friends and co-workers in a way, and he trusts her to kind of watch over his practice. And so, of course, he pulls her back in once he gets all these cases all at once.
And also her boyfriend and his investigator, Cisco. Could you please pronounce Cisco's real last name for me?
Wojciechowski. And the reason I can say it so easily is it's based on a friend of mine who's known as Cisco Wojciechowski. And he's a new character in this book, and he's Mickey's defense investigator. And he's got a kind of colorful past, an association with a local motorcycle gang. And he has the size and kind of intimidation factor that Mickey counts on a lot in an investigator.
Now, you mentioned you based Cisco on a friend of yours. How often do people pick up and think that you've based a character on them, and how often are they not pleased with the portrayal?
I think people see themselves in a lot of my characters. I don't think there's any displeasure because I'm a reporter at heart, and so I spend a lot of time with people who really do the work that I write about in fiction. So I take stuff from them. I always tell them, if I'm going to use their name, of course, I would let them know. And it's usually a positive character. Cisco's a positive character. Whenever I use, there's a judge in this, not Judge Holder. There's another judge, Judge Champagne, that's based on a judge who let me sit in her courtroom when I was, doing research for the book. And so in a way, it's a little thank you. Put them in the book, but it also gives me a clear image and sound of people when I'm writing the stories. It's not like I have to sit there and think, what should this person look like? What should they sound like? I have it in my head. So it's, in a way, a shortcut that helps me.
Now, this is your 19th novel that you've published, and you mentioned research. How much research do you still do before each novel?
Well, I'm writing about Mickey Holler. I do a lot of research. I'm very much aware that most of the big titans of the legal thriller genre actually did the work. They're lawyers, Scott Turow, John Grisham. There's a bunch of them. And I did not do the work. I'm not a lawyer, never tried a case. And so I don't want to get stuff wrong. I've never been a lawyer, but I was a reporter, so I know about how to report and gather the facts, and then it's my job or craft, if you will, to kind of put it together in fiction. But I'm always concerned with accuracy. And so compared to the Harry Bosch books, I do much more research on the Holler books. It's not to say that the Bosch books don't have any kind of degree of accuracy, but I'm more comfortable after writing 13 or 14 of those. And I have a whole variety of detective friends who are social friends. I get calls from them, I call them and all that. So I just have a better start.
Now, with Holler, and I think one of the Bosch books you've written in first person, um, why did you decide at one point to change up from a third person narrator to a first person narrator?
With Mickey Haller, I knew it should be first person right from the start because I had two defense attorneys who were really allowing me into their lives, a close look at how they did their work. And as I was researching the first book, The Lincoln Lawyer, I was seeing stuff or hearing stuff or knowing stuff that I didn't think had been out in books before. And so I kind of viewed the story as Mickey Haller saying to the reader, you have your ideas about how our justice system works, but let me tell you how it really works from the trenches. And so in a way, in my mind, it became a confessional, almost like a whispered confessional from this guy at the bottom of the trench. And that just dictated to me it should be first person. And so that's the way I went with him.
Now, you start off the book with "Everybody lies." Is that a dispiriting thing, or does that piece of information help you and help a character get through life better?
Well, I think it is dispiriting, and I think that was one of the points of the story is that it's a cynical start. I mean, Mickey, as I said earlier, is on the bottom of the trench looking up at the sky. You can see between the sides of the trench, and he has a cynical view, and that comes from doing this for a long time, constantly having people who are guilty as clients. It wears you down, and it gives you this kind of cynical view. And I, those are the first two words of the book, "Everybody Lies," and the story is a journey, I think, towards some of that light. So it starts on a very cynical end, and if you stick with it, I think you get to the light at the end of the tunnel.
Now, one of the reasons he can be cynical is he has a franchise case that's dropped in his lap from Vincent's death with Walter Elliott, and he's the head of Archway Studios, and what an arrogant man he is. I'm sure there are plenty of movie moguls in L.A. to draw inspiration from on that.
Yeah, I don't know if that was even counts as research. No, I mean I've had a limited interaction with people in Hollywood, and I've often been struck by the entitlement that many seem to have from perceived success that is not really based on any kind of skill or art. A lot of it has to do with luck. A lot of it comes down to money, and then people succeed on the backs of the real creators. And, maybe this guy is a bit of a caricature, but for the most part, I think everything I say about him, you could find a true reference in someone in Hollywood.
Now, your Hollywood experience, most notably with Bloodwork, I mean, Clint Eastwood is known to be a pretty decent guy to the authors. What was your experience like with Mr.
It was
Eastwood?
definitely a good experience. He was what was the best thing about it was he was always completely honest. Even when he was telling me he was going to change, like the ending of my book, for example, is changed in the movie. He didn't hide that from me. He was upfront about explaining his reasons for doing that. And so I didn't agree with him, but just the fact that he was willing to hear what I had to say and was telling me what he's going to do is the foundation of a good relationship. I didn't have a whole lot to do with the movie, but he was always open to telling me what was going on when he was filming it. The door was open. I could spend every day there if I wanted to. I didn't. Watching a movie is actually quite boring if you're not really taking part in it. So I went a few times, but he was always a good guy to me.
And